Hello there. Well, this is an open invitation to any vegans out there. My good buddy, High Carb Skate Punk, sent me an email the other day, and I thought I'd try and see if he was online. But this is really open to everybody that wants to talk about vegan topics. And just had several good interviews lately. A lot of good people out there getting the message and changing the world, changing themselves, changing the world, getting healthy. So it's all good stuff, and just want to make it bigger, want to grow it wider, open up the audience, spread the word, and bring these old systems of factory animal farming crashing to the ground. Break through some of the ignorance in the culture and get people losing weight, get them back to a healthy weight, get people exercising, just totally transform our society. So much promise. So much promise from such a simple action. You know, what you put in your mouth. You start putting the right things in your mouth, and it changes so many things. So a big a big thank you to all the vegans out there that are doing such good work. Um, let's see, what else? You got any other books on the menu? Um, really, that's about it. Just eager to hear your thoughts on being vegan and what your challenges are, how you'd like to proceed, how you'd like to spread the message. Uh, Feel free to hop on board and speak your mind. If you're having any issues getting onto the Google Hangout, send me a email and we can try to solve your problems. I have an interesting thing coming up. I got this deal where I'm going to make a vegan cake for somebody. So it's funny. I went over to this kind of a Hindu temple complex. They got an interesting deal over there. They're kind of trying to do a Western approach to a Hindu thing. And I told the lady I was vegan, and then turns out she needs a cake for her birthday. So I'm going to try and make her a vegan cake. So if any of you are vegan bakers, you could probably give me some tips on this. I think I found a pretty decent recipe, and we'll see what happens. Hopefully the people won't be gagging. Um, but what can I share with y'all? Mm, there's I think that's pretty much it for now. Would love to get some feedback from some of y'all. Let me know of some topics you might be interested in for doing these Google Hangouts, and we can get like 3, 4, 5 people on here together and just sound out different ideas and see what's going on in your lives and talk about various issues. Would love to hear your thoughts. So thanks very much for tuning in. Drop me an email. Let's see if I can put up a post here. I don't know if this will show to you guys. Let's see here, raw, and I'll put my email address here. So rawandcookvegan@gmail.com. That is my email address, and if you have any interest, especially in being interviewed, if you're a vegan and you're willing to be interviewed, let me know, because I'm always looking for vegans to interview. I do these 1-hour interviews, and I try to get a little bit more background than you can find on a lot of these short videos. I know that people have short attention spans and they really want these 5 to 10-minute videos, but I kind of like doing these longer videos to get a little background, to kind of humanize vegans, because a lot of folks that eat traditionally have this perception of vegans being way out there in left field, and really it's not like that. They're just normal people who have realized, either through the lens of ethics or the lens of health or the lens of the environment, that the vegan approach is superior. And then generally, once you've done it for a while, you realize the power of all three arguments in terms of health, ethics, and environment. So if you're vegan and you're willing to be interviewed, and we can do a little bit of your background, how you transitioned to veganism, why it became important for you, what were some of the problems you encountered as you transitioned, what are you doing now? Are you doing a high carb, a high raw thing? Are you doing a cooked vegan thing? Are you kind of a McDougall'er? Are you a Doug Graham devotee? Or have you kind of created your own path and come up with approaches that you think are the best? Would love to hear all your thoughts on these issues. So feel free to jump on. And whenever I do these Google Hangouts and I send out a broadcast invitation, that means anybody can jump on any time. And you should be able to do this through your Google Plus page. If you have trouble with that, let me know, and maybe I can walk you through it. Sometimes it's a little bit weird navigating Google Plus for the Google Hangouts. Anyway, all the best to you all, and I've just gotten a little notice here. Let's see. Maybe I can invite my buddy Will Kriske on here. Let's see. All right, Will. I'm going to do Will Kriske from Potato Strong, see if I can get him on here. So I don't know if you all know Potato Strong. Will Kriske, great guy, has some great videos, very grounded, very practical, and you'll love his stuff. He does a lot with recipes, and just a very supportive, kind, reasonable guy. Real pleasure to see him in the vegan movement. Let's see, his phone is ringing. Okay. So I don't know if is that you, Will?
Hey, Paul.
Hey, man, I'm just babbling here. I'm babbling into the ether. What's going on, man?
Not too much. Just watching the U.S. Open, a little bit of tennis.
How are you?
Feeling lazy.
Don't let me interrupt you if you're in the middle of a match.
No, there's nothing crazy going on right now.
Is it the men's or the women's?
Both. There's like on 5 different channels. It's crazy.
Oh, yeah? Yeah.
But Canada's been doing a lot better now. Like, they've been getting into, Ronich and that, and Bouchard. They're up there in the rankings now. So it's kind of weird. I've been watching tennis for a long time. Never really had Canadians in there, so it's cool.
Good.
How about you?
I'm doing well, man. I really enjoyed your video the other day on the dieting thing. That kind of cleared up some issues. I think you did I'm not sure when you posted it, but it was like a 20-minute video. It was what I was asking about with McDougall and the how he addresses the fat and losing weight on the vegan approach.
Yeah, somebody just asked me about oats because they really like oats, and they said, can they have them like 3 times a day? And I thought, because oats are a little bit higher in fat.
Yeah.
18%, I think it is.
Huh.
But if I checked McDougall's site, and any starch you can use as your basis. But so I told her to email him, and I gave her his email address, and he said, yeah, it's okay. So, but oats would be the basis, and then if you add vegetables and fruit and salad, and that's going to bring the percent down from 18 to 10 or whatever. So, she should be fine if she wants to eat oats 3 times a day. She's really happy.
Wasn't he saying that if you look at your plate, like let's say you had half a plate of oats and then the other half would be green vegetables and lettuce and stuff like that.
Yeah, if you want to, if you're having trouble or you hit a plateau, you can sort of go half a plate of starch. So you're cutting down the higher calorie food and substituting in some vegetables, but you have to make sure you're still satiated, because if you go too far, you won't fill up enough because the
Yeah,
vegetables.
that's the trick. Yeah.
So, it's not something I've done that much of, but I'm just on a call right now. Um, so, that's how I do it. I could probably substitute a little more veggies at times, but I like the starch. If I'm having a plate of fries or something, uh,
Yeah.
I could probably throw in some veggies and um, cut back on the starch a bit, but I haven't done that too much lately.
But
I'm
you're kind of at your, have you leveled out in terms of weight?
Yeah, I'm pretty much leveled out. My feeling, I was reading somewhere the other day that McDougall said that you'll keep a certain level of fat, just not very much, but you'll have some fat just because your body wants to have some for, it moderates itself. Um, if you want to take it down and get like abs and be really lean, I think you need to do more exercise. Um, you need to take it up a notch as far as um, leaning out even more, I think. So, but sometimes when I exercise vigorously, like say if I get on a treadmill and run or something, I find I get hungry. Like not right away, but a couple hours later, I get pretty ravenous. Um,
Right.
so then I noticed I was eating more, so it kind of almost balances each other out. So,
I ran into this with my mom because I tried to do a high carb vegan thing with her, and to be satiated, I had to let her eat as much of those like pasta and potatoes as she wanted, and there wasn't really much change in her weight. Now we didn't do it for a long time. I could only do it because she wouldn't do it for a long time.
um,
So,
yeah, but I
but
mean, you'd have to
I
look
can
at,
see where that would be a problem for women with that.
yeah, I mean, I don't know, I'd have to look at the whole, what they eat as an entirety, like if there's fats and other things, and then, like you say, you have to do it long enough, which, is difficult for people. So
Yeah.
before I could make a statement, but for me, I've been doing really high starch in large quantities, but not an excessive amount of calories and very little exercise. Like I can I could go a whole day and not even move, like just be on the couch on the computer. Um,
Dude.
like today, I didn't even do anything at all because I worked.
Yeah.
And Bonnie sometimes like to take a walk in the evening, but evenings for me, I'm pretty tired, and after I eat and stuff, I don't like to. It's not easy for me. I'd rather do it in the morning.
Yeah.
Um, but there's this guy, what's his name? Carb Crunching Vegan or something.
Yeah.
He goes, I'm not really active. He's a young guy. And he says, I'm pretty sedentary or something. And he says, he's a tennis coach.
Yeah.
I'm like, if you're a tennis coach, you're definitely not inactive. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's right.
It's like, if you're standing there explaining how to hit the ball, that's one thing. But if you're hitting it back and forth and running side to side and to the front, um, and playing tennis, I would imagine, there's a certain level. I think people that are active and young, they don't even realize they don't think it's active, but they have no idea when you're 40 or 50 what inactive means. Like,
Man, I used to teach yoga, and it can be fairly very light exercise if you're teaching. but you're always doing something, and you're moving the body, and you're demonstrating something, and yeah, it's like a low level continuous exercise. It's
Yeah, I've done a few stretches here and there, like, and my temperature goes up a huge amount when I start stretching, and um, I was trying to stretch out, like do splits. I was trying to do some stretches and
yeah,
some what is it, hip flexors and stuff like that, and I start getting temperature rise like crazy. Um, but they said, I was reading somewhere, because sometimes when you calculate calories that you need, there's this activity level, and it says sedentary, light exercise, and somebody said, like, if you exercise for an hour a day, that's still light, that's still really sedentary, because I mean the other 23 hours you're not moving, right? And then
huh.
to go for a walk for 1 hour is not very active. So I was thinking I need to, if I wanted to take it, well, a couple of things. First of all, I'm trying to be really patient, um, because I've been up and down, for years, and more overweight than regular. Like, I've never been this lean before,
Yeah,
but I've always been on the heavier side, and so I want to be consistent and be able to keep doing this. And because what happens is you can be really rigid and stick to it for a while, and then you can start sneaking in little things, like not animal products, but um, you can you could start adding something that you weren't doing before, like a little bit of peanut butter, and then it becomes um, more common, and then
right.
you just start adding things that you weren't doing. Like when I was doing this at the beginning, I was doing a lot of mashed potatoes and baked fries and stuff, and then lately I've been doing a little bit more floury type products, like pizza. Um, there's these noodles, udon noodles. They're kind of a wheat, uh, they're not a whole grain. They're some kind of a wheat flour.
Yeah, is it
Um,
buckwheat? Buckwheat maybe?
well, these ones are, I think they're just regular wheat, but they're not whole wheat. They're enriched or something.
Okay.
But anyway, little things can start to creep in, and that can start to put you back. You can, like, I've been avoiding soy products for the most part, because
Huh.
I used to eat a lot of them, like the sausages, the tofu, the German sausages and all that stuff, and I'm not eating those anymore. But you could potentially add certain things, start putting Daiya cheese on your pizza, like that, dairy, whatever. So
Yeah.
things all of a sudden can start to creep back in potentially. So anyway, one of my goals is just to keep consistent, and some of it's going to be slow and steady. You may still lose weight, or like how Durian Rider talks about 7+ years for Freely. The other potential possibility is that you do hit an equilibrium, and then the question is, if you want to progress, do you try to lower the calories by swapping in more veggies, or increase exercise? And like I say, I'm insanely inactive, so some kind of a sport, or just starting to try to get on the treadmill or something.
But dude, that's incredible that you characterize yourself as extremely inactive, and yet with that inactivity, you really enhanced the appearance of your body physically with just like pull-ups, push-ups, and I mean, it's pretty cool.
Yeah, that kind of suits me. Not because it's going to burn any calories, but just the toning and a little bit of muscle gain. But first of all, when you lose 35 pounds, the muscle that you have becomes a little more apparent, I guess. But if you if you get on the floor and do like 10 or 12 push-ups, it's literally like a minute. It's,
That's true. That's true.
and I won't even do sometimes, because I get distracted. See, I don't like to do a workout like necessarily all in one. in one session, because every time you work, if you do a set of push-ups or something, you have to wait a minute or two, right?
Yeah.
And it's really hard for me to just wait and do nothing, for 2 minutes.
Dude.
Namaste. So, if I'm on the computer, I can just go down on the floor, or if I go outside and I can do something on the rail on my deck.
Yeah.
And I won't even necessarily do 3 sets or 4 sets. It's just sometimes it's like a static hold or something like that. But yeah, it's very easy and short-lived, so it doesn't feel like it's anything. And normally when I'm referring to burning 500 to 1,000 calories or something, would be like running for over an hour, at a pretty good clip. For me, that's painful because it's continuous pain. Like when you do, not pain, but it's just not, you're breathing heavier, you're exerting, and you're like, oh, I don't want to do this, It's boring as hell because, I have to watch TV. So I don't want to do things that I can't necessarily sustain over a lifetime, So right now, like the yoga stretching is cool. Some chin-ups and push-ups is something so far I've been able to do. But yeah, that's I don't know. I'm just wondering if you want to take it up a bit notch and get even leaner, like Jay and plant-based athlete, there's definitely more activity or reducing the caloric intake through some of the adjustments.
Right.
So we'll see.
Hey,
I'm being patient.
Have you had a chance at all to look at the book? What do you think of the book?
Yeah, I've read. I've got it here. It's pretty heavy so far.
Yeah.
I'm on chapter 5, and I needed to get to the practical part of it, where what do you do specifically? Because at first he was answering the same question kind of in different ways, and I was okay. Like, when's what do I do exactly? So far, yeah, I've enjoyed it.
Does it remind you at all of Eckhart Tolle, or do you think it's totally different?
It seems different to me. I mean, it seemed a little bit more like Eckhart Tolle to me is more like easy. What's the word I'm looking for?
Easily understood.
Yeah, it's like for the masses.
Yeah.
It's simple, in easy language, I guess, the way he puts it.
Yeah.
Like when I looked at Eckhart Tolle, the idea of everything happens in the present moment, like the power of now.
Right.
Everything's now. Like if you think about the past, you're thinking about it now. If you look at the future, it's all happening now. That was obvious, but it was a big eye opener. Like just to be aware of that idea. The idea of the ego, like a sense of self. And when somebody insults you or something, it's like attacking you, and an ego small, it shrinks, and then you want to attack to kind of increase your ego, like to repair that damage.
Right.
That was pretty cool. The ego, the sense of self, that being aware of your thoughts, like from some external point of view, where you're just.
Yeah.
That's why I don't think Eckhart Tolle really explains a lot about how to do it. I think it's kind of obvious that you can't really solve the problems within the mind itself. You have to just let it go and be aware of it.
Yeah. Yep.
He also talks about pain bodies, which I haven't read this stuff for a while, but he talks about a pain body where, like, say you've been hurt by somebody, or there's some pain in your body, like in your mind, and you kind of need it to it wants to live, it wants to survive, so
Yeah.
you kind of relive the pain and talk about it to people so that it reinforces it. like if you were raped or whatever happened in the past,
Yeah.
when you talk about it over and over again, you bring it up again. It's just this thing wants to survive and live. Like, and I think what he talks about is a lot of it gives attention to yourself. Like if you're at a party and you say, hey, how you doing? And you say, whatever, I gotta, my back hurts or something. You're kind of adding a lot of drama and a lot of pain and suffering to that basic pain that's there. So I noticed a lot of times, like when we talk about things, we're adding a lot of drama and pain and suffering on top of the actual event if it happened in the past. You know,
Yeah.
and I
It's
think the reason
interesting.
we do that is because we get attention.
Yep.
So people talk about it, they're focusing on you, on what you're saying. Um, and so that's kind of his approach. And I'm sure there's more to it, but
You're reminding me of the Buddhist thing, which is, suffering is related to the ego. So you drop the ego, and there's no more suffering. You might still have pain. You might get hit by a car. You might get injured. You might have an emotional experience that doesn't feel good. But if there's no ego, there's not suffering. It's not like you hang on to the stuff. It's a different kind of relationship to it.
yeah. And what was it about suffering is resistance to what is or something like that.
Yeah, yeah,
Like I look at, say, with my dog, there's human traditions and a need to mourn for something, but um, when Ben was going through some problems in the yard, like circling or whatever, I was thinking about that, and I was thinking, like, what he's doing at that time is actually what's happening. It's what is. And so when I'm upset about it, I'm resisting the fact that it's happening. I don't want it to be happening.
yeah.
Um, and so you're kind of aware of it, but it's still hard to avoid those thoughts. But there is some awareness a lot of times of
You know
what.
what's interesting? What you're bringing up to my mind is, how do you balance this? Because you know you as I think what you just said is totally true, and that if you're totally detached, you won't be suffering, you won't be having the wrong, quote unquote wrong perception of a negative situation, and yet at the same time you don't want to become somebody who's completely detached and just doesn't interact with the world at all. It's like you could become so detached that just you could walk by somebody who's hurting someone and not do anything. And so
Right.
it's kind of a tricky balance, I guess.
Yeah. There's a story in one of Eckhart Tolle was talking about, because I don't know, he's referring to other stories too, but I don't know if you've heard that thing where the guy goes, "Is that so?" Um,
Yeah, yeah,
they told the guy that he was he had a child or something, and he said, "Is that so?" And then they brought the kid over, and he took care of it for a while, and then they came and said, "Oh no, sorry, it's not your kid," and they took it away, and he was like 10 years old or whatever. And
yeah.
every time he's like, "Is that so?" I'm like, that's kind of like an ideal scenario in a sense,
Right.
where you don't react to anything, but you know, yeah, humanity comes in there, and um, but there's definitely just on a daily basis. One of the things I realize with the power of now and this idea of present moment is that my focus is in the future. Like other people may look in the past and all the things that happened and be really bitter and upset about it and relive it. But for me, the stress comes in with a future focus, like
Yeah.
worrying about what might happen, or if you're going to have enough money in the bank, or if you're
Right.
working at a job and you're not going to make the deadline to get something done. Um, so I realized that that's where my stress is coming in is um, a future focus. And sometimes it helped when I was programming to go, okay, what can I do right now, and just try to, because you're aware of the future and the problems that are going to happen, but try to just do what you can in the moment. Because sometimes when you're too stressed out about the future, it affects the present. Your ability to focus. You're pretty
Yeah.
stressed out and scattered. Your mind isn't clear. So um, but a lot of the stuff intellectually I understood, but I couldn't implement it a lot of times. So
Yeah. It's one thing to say this stuff, and it's another thing to apply it in the real world.
yeah. Um, so I recently, Mind Body Green. It's there's this website where Rich Roll is talking about. He's got some courses up there. It's called Mind Body Green, and there's a guy who has a meditation course. It's got 4 different meditation styles or something like that. And I signed up for that for Bonnie's birthday in June, and we haven't gone through all of it, much of it yet. But like, there's mantras and breathing. We just got to the basic one where you're breathing, but
Is it Mind Body Green, like the color?
yeah.
Okay.
So there's a bunch of videos and how-tos, but it's just about actually doing it. So that's the interesting thing. When I first heard about meditation, you have this kind of idea that somebody's sitting on a mountain and they're like contemplating, like they're actually thinking, in a sense of. So.
Yes. Yeah.
And so there's a guy. Rich Roll did an interview with a guy. He's a newscaster, broadcaster, who got into some meditation. He was saying, essentially, you're breathing and you're not thinking. You're breathing in and out, and you're not thinking of anything. That's the ideal. And then your thoughts come in, and you try to go back to just breathing in and out. So it's just being aware and no thoughts going on, and that's really a skill. I mean, if you haven't done it, right?
Well, it's interesting you say that, because I think a lot of meditation becomes this battle where people try to keep things out of their mind. So it's like, a lot of meditation techniques are about finding something to focus on, and then you attempt to keep your concentration on that focal point, and then if the mind wanders, you gently bring your attention back to the focal point. I think that's one type of meditation, but it often turns into this thing of like, oh, I don't want that thought in my head. I keep that out. I don't want to think about that, and it becomes this kind of polar situation. Whereas I like this idea of you're just being. You're being, and if a thought comes in, it comes in, and if the thought goes out, it goes out, and it's kind of like what you were saying with Ben. It's either a positive or a negative experience, but you're just an observer. You're not putting a judgment on it, and I think you can do that with the thoughts too. It's like the thoughts just come and go, but I do think it's something you're referring to. You hear about with some adept yogis and masters, is that they talk about this state where there are no thoughts. So it appears that you can kind of gradually evolve to this place where thoughts they really don't come in somehow. And it sounds like a really peaceful thing, but it's not like something you can manufacture.
Yeah, I think that it's good to know and to communicate to people that when you're focusing on your breathing and thoughts are coming in, number one, don't freak out and get upset and pissed off about it. But 2 is potentially the idea that the thoughts are always going to come in, and they're never going to stop coming in. Because if you, like, I've had a feeling that the ideal is to not have any thoughts come in, and when they come in, you kind of bring back to your breath, but you're hoping that over time that won't happen. But if you tell people that they'll keep coming, but you just have to, be okay with it, and just.
Yeah, it's like if you tell somebody, don't think of a pink elephant.
Yes.
They automatically, that's the first thing they're thinking of,
Yeah, I was doing something. I started out, and I was just trying to breathe in and out with my stomach, like a deep breath. And just in and out, in and out. And the thoughts kept coming in. I started thinking about stuff. Completely, totally lost track of my breathing. And then there was 1 or 2 times when what I did was I counted. So instead of just breathing in and out with no, whatever you wanted to, I'd go 1, like breathe in 1, 2, each time.
Yeah.
And I was up to like 10 or 20, and I hadn't thought of anything. Like nothing was coming in. And I thought to myself, the fact that I just have to do a little bit of thought to keep track, like I'm on 1, I'm on 2, just a little bit of thinking,
Yeah.
was enough to kind of keep other things from coming in.
That's interesting. That's interesting, Will. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it only happened once or twice, and I'm not sure, But I thought to myself, it's interesting, just observing how I react, because the first time it was just in and out breathing, easily distracted. But then when I counted 1, 2, 3, and then I thought about people counting sheep when they go to sleep. I thought it's interesting because it's, in a sense, you're keeping a tally, so you have to do a little bit of thinking to keep, the tally going. But
There's a great lesson that you hear in Eastern teachings that reflects this, and there's the story of this guy who somehow he through some strange set of circumstances he gets this genie who is at his service, and this genie can perform any number of miracles and do anything the man requests. The genie is basically his servant to do whatever he likes. But the problem is that as soon as the genie runs out of tasks to do, then the man will be killed by the genie. So the man runs off to another holy man and he says, "Look, I have this genie that'll serve me and do whatever I ask it, but if I don't have something for it to do, it'll kill me." And so the wise man says, "Look, go dig a hole in your yard and plant a post in it, and you tell this genie to run up and down the post, and that'll give him a constant task to do. Whenever you want something, you can tell him to do something else, and then once you have nothing to do, put him back on the post, running up and down the post." And this is an analogy for the mind. It's if you give the mind a simple task to keep it occupied, and the common thing in Eastern tradition is namasmarana, which is reciting a mantra. This reciting a mantra, it's like sending the genie up and down the pole, because the genie is the mind. And if you let the mind go run free, it'll destroy you. But if you give it this task of just going up and down the pole, like namasmarana, or like what you're saying, counting sheep or counting the breath, the mind stays occupied, so it can't run after things.
Yeah, I think, I sort of discovered something naturally that they've discovered, thousands of years ago.
Yeah.
And this guy goes through. We've only done the one where it's 3 belly breaths, and then you take a break and you do it again, and some posture, just sitting. No, it's just really for the average guy. But I think there's other ones that are. He took them, and there's conflicting processes, but he's trying to unify them. And I think mantras will be in there too. And like I say, back in the day when you don't really know much about meditation, and you hear about Om and all that stuff, you're thinking like some weird stuff, but it's a sound or the vibration or just something for your brain to do to, like. But the only thing I was wondering about is if that is the best way to do it, because you're giving your brain something to do, but it's also something that is preventing the ability to be fully aware. Because like if you watch TV, right?
Yeah.
You don't really think about anything else. You're completely just mesmerized watching the show on TV. So there's a certain amount of relaxation there. You're not thinking about work or whatever. But it's an artificial way of doing it. So if somebody just watched TV all the time, they're not really going to be zen and control their mind. It's just like you can turn on the TV and zone out and turn off your brain, but it's not really, you're not developing that ability to do that, to be, without thought. So
Yeah,
I guess what I'm saying is there's a mantra and the counting, even though it works to kind of distract the brain a bit, is that the best way to do it ultimately, because it is keeping the brain from
yeah.
from
You're
thinking and being overactive.
you're pulling up a couple of things for me. There's a great story. There's actually a real guy. I don't know if you've ever heard of Papaji. I think I told you about him. Papaji, great, amazing teacher in India. And he did incredible amounts of namasmarana when he was young. In other words, he was chanting. He had a mantra with the name of God, and he would chant it a lot. Like he would get up at like 2 or 3 in the morning and chant for several hours in his mind silently. Then he would get on a bus, go to work. While he's on the bus, he's chanting. And then at work, whenever his mind wasn't engaged on something else, he'd be chanting it. And he did this for a long time. And after a few years, his ability to chant left him. And he couldn't do it anymore. And it kind of freaked him out. And he was really upset. And he started seeking out holy men and asking, look, I was doing thousands and thousands of repetitions every day. And then all of a sudden, I can't do it anymore. What's going on? And finally, he came to Ramana Maharshi, and Ramana Maharshi said, look, when you use a ladder and you get to the top, you let go of the ladder. You don't need the ladder anymore. Once you get to where you're going, you don't need the step anymore. And he said, you've reached the point. You don't need namasmarana anymore. You don't need to keep chanting it. You've done it. So it's like he had actually shifted into a state of full awareness, so that he no longer needed this kind of, you could say, worldly based step. It's a great point you're making, Will. It's like these are just worldly approaches that will only be suitable up to a certain time, but when the ego is finally completely dropped, they will no longer be of any use.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point, and I think that if this stuff was explained in a very simple manner, where you could say, you're going to, like, we just came up with a bunch of points here that are really key as far as I'm concerned, is, say for example, focus on your breathing, and if thoughts come in, just be aware of them and don't judge them, don't freak out. But you kind of do want to limit those, or to reduce the thoughts coming in. And so, but if you use a way of, like, mantras or counting or whatever, to reduce those thoughts coming in, because it just gives your brain a bit of activity, do that for a period of time, until maybe you don't have to do that as much. You'll naturally be able to just say, be aware of your breathing, and even that, like, focusing on your breathing is something that is a helper as well, right? It's just something that your body's doing naturally in and out that allows you to something to think about, to focus on.
Yeah, you reminded me, there's an analogy that's frequently used. I don't know if you've ever planted young trees, but when you plant a sapling, there's a technique whereby you run some wired fencing around the base of the tree to protect the trunk of the sapling while it develops, and you fertilize it, you take special care of it. Once the tree reaches a certain height and strength, it no longer needs those protections. And you could say these actions you're talking about that help keep the mind concentrated, they could be considered like training wheels to get the mind accustomed to moving in the right direction, and then eventually these training wheels are no longer needed.
Yeah. I was chatting with that Divine Bag Star, she's got that Divine Bag of Cells.
Oh yeah, I gotta check her out. Yeah.
Yeah, I mentioned to her that you wanted to talk to her as well. She's going to she's in California, and she's going to Evan Rock's thing in Hawaii there.
Oh yeah.
He was looking for a volunteer to help on the site, or on the I don't know, whatever he wants her to do. She just she met him at one of these fruit things, and she decided she's going to move out there.
Yeah.
So that's pretty cool, because she's young enough to just take off and then,
yeah, I think Ben Beeler went down there and spent some time down there.
Yeah, and he's got some probably cool future plans for that for that whatever you want to call. I'm not sure what he's calling it.
Yeah,
Get,
I think he might be. He's kind of a militant vegan, I think.
yeah, I don't jive with him a lot, but I know that he was a realtor or something, and a real estate investor or something, and I know he's got plans to, like, he wants to charge, and have people come, like, rent. He's going to combine some of the fruit in the artistic interest that he has and charge people to stay there. And he had to buy the land and stuff, so he's an entrepreneur and he's not pushing that aspect of it. But I know he's got plans. He did a podcast with Rich Roll, and you could sort of see that he's definitely got the wheels turning to develop.
Yeah, I gotta check out this Rich Roll. He sounds like an interesting character.
Yeah, he's really intelligent. He's a ultra marathon guy and plant based, but he wrote a book and he's quite eloquent. Like every time I listen to his podcast, he throws these words out that I'm like, I know I've heard them. Like I definitely heard the words. I don't use them. And I thought, geez, I got to get some toilet paper or something, like word of the day or something. So,
hey, dude, before I forget, I want you to check out this guy. I think you'll like him. His name is Muji. I just sent it to you. Muji, Mooji. Real sweet, kind of Jamaican guy, who I think he lives in England now. But he talks about non-duality and Advaita in a very grounded, practical way. Beautiful guy. Check him out. You'll like him.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I was chatting with Star, and it's Divine Bag of Cells.
Yeah.
She other people, like somebody's doing something and you're like, oh, I can't believe they're doing that, or people that are eating meat and unhealthy, after they get diabetes they still eat crap or whatever. And so you're talking about a family member or a friend with somebody about that person, and she was saying she knew that when girls do this, they don't really have a lot of self-esteem. Like if they feel bad about themselves and they kind of want to attack other people. But I was saying, in my case, I don't see it that way. The way I look at it, it's not just physical. It's about all sorts of different things. What people do for work, my own family members and stuff like that. And what it was is, what I saw it as like a high standard, like wishing other people would act a certain way at a higher standard, like get a degree or get even a trade, so that they can, if they want to work, so that they can earn a good income. Because people are, somebody is struggling at $10 an hour or something like that.
Yeah.
And I did a lot of education and did a lot of things to travel to try to get jobs, and so there was a strong work ethic and I see people that are dropping out of university, and then they're struggling, and they're asking to move in with people or living in free, places, crashing at people's. So I was mentioning that to her, and in the Eckhart Tolle thing, it's you're talking about other people in the sense that I can't believe they're doing this, or you wish they would be doing that, and it's drama, that's the word he uses. It's not even happening at the time. You're in a house with somebody, the guy's not even there.
Yeah.
And you're judging the person and sort of stressing out about what they're doing or not doing.
Yeah, you know what interests me about this, Will, is it's like the same force that inspires me to do something that's praiseworthy. It's the same force that inspires me to do something that's not praiseworthy. It's like the force that inspires some guy to make $1 million is the same force that inspires another guy to be homeless. It's like, why do we necessarily we identify these people's egos with their situation, but really, if you're not in that person's head, how can you know what's going on?
Yeah, it does come down to ego, I guess, because when I when I look back, I can look at choices that I made and the work I put in, to study for school and apply for scholarships and like for example, so then you can attribute a lot of that to personal choices. And when I was in high school, let's say, I started working at a grocery store. And
Yeah.
all my friends, all the people I worked with were asking me when the paycheck was going in the bank. Like, when's it going in, Thursday, Friday, whatever. And I was like, I don't know, I don't care. Like, I was saving money like crazy. And these guys were going out partying, you know, and then the town I lived in had like a like a GM, General Motors
Yeah.
factory, and these guys were like, hey, when we get out of high school, we can go work at General Motors for $23 an hour or something. And that seemed like a huge amount of money. And so, or 18 bucks an hour, I don't know what it was, but
Yeah.
so these guys, instead of going to university or getting a trade skill or whatever, they go to this automotive plant. And I was, I had studied, I was doing my homework every night and getting good marks and everything. And I decided to go to university. And there's a lot of other things related to that, but at some point this factory closed. First of all, when I got out of school, when I was in university the first year at Waterloo, they showed if you go to high school, your salary will reach a certain point. If you get a degree, you go up, more
Right.
over time. And then if you had a master's or PhD, whatever. And so what happens initially is you don't have that initial income from working at a factory. You go to school, you pay for rent, you move away from home, you have rent, you have tuition and food and everything. And then 5 years later, you start making not very much money. So it's a delayed benefit.
Yeah.
And
Delayed gratification. Yeah.
then you start finding out the manufacturing is moving to Mexico or overseas, and these guys lose their jobs, and they're like 40 years old. They haven't done any education. They have no other skills, and so I can allocate a lot of that to me making correct, good decisions, and
Yeah, but you say good decisions. I mean, do you really think that those guys could have made different decisions?
um, that's the thing is when I was looking at where I got to, I sort of see it as almost something that starts like very early, like your ways of being in school as far as buckling down and doing the homework.
Yeah, well, yeah. I mean, you could say your parents, your parents inculcated these values in you, and or perhaps you were personally inclined that way. But my point is, uh, why were these other guys inclined another way? Why did their parents inculcate in them different values? It's not. It, you can't say it's just personal integrity or something like that. I just, there's too many other factors. It's like I don't know. I think it's praiseworthy that when people do what we would call generally the right thing and they experience the benefits of that. But I wonder, what's the primary impetus behind all action? You know what I'm saying?
Well, in my case, like the interesting thing was none of my family my mom was a homemaker, my dad worked at the Ford motor plant, so no university or anything. And my older sisters and brother never went to university. Um,
Okay.
and so, you know, there's a couple of things. University didn't, um, hold on. Hey, Kimo. What's that? Hmm? Oh. Okay. Hey, Kimo. What I was saying is, like, part of it is culturally, I think university didn't become something that people did like earlier in the game, like in the past. So over time, it started to become more common. Are you there? Edie?
Reconnect.
You there?
There you go. Hey, man.
Hey. Um, the what I was saying was that the university, like in the past, people didn't really go to university, so it's something that over time became more common,
Yeah.
like expected almost. But my family, my parents didn't go to university. None of my brothers and my brother and my sisters went. Um, but I still see, yeah. I mean, when people make choices, it's a complicated series of things, like in the past and family members and society, no question about it.
Right.
But I still think that there has to be some personal responsibility for choices.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, in the end, you got to people experience the consequences of their actions. I just find the whole thing fascinating. You know, we tend to assign, moral judgment to someone if they're successful or a failure, and yet there's so many variables that are out of these people's control. Uh, I think it's interesting, but
There's actually a term that I read about, external locus of control or internal locus of control, and people have either an external or an internal locus of control. So I tend to have an internal locus of control, which means that I allocate things that, like, if things that have happened are based on choices that I make and decisions. Whereas if you're external, like people that I know that are external, they'll blame the government or corporations, the 1%, for their problems. And like I'll see people say they're picketing and they're saying, hey, the 1%, they're taking all the money and there's a huge wage gap, or income disparity. But the person didn't even get a degree, or they have an English degree or something where there's no jobs for that particular thing. And so, there's just a reality that if you want to have a certain income, not to say you're better than somebody else or whatever, but if you just want to be able to survive in the world and make a certain level of income, there's certain jobs that pay a certain amount, right?
right.
And so I know people that have gone to university and gotten a degree in women's studies, and we're just kind of going, why do this? Like, I mean, I'm not saying they want to make tons of money. They don't have to make tons of money, but they get quite resentful at other people who have more money or whatever. And if they're happy, like that's the bottom line, is that each person should be happy. I know people that are making $10 an hour, they're happy, that's fine. The problem comes in when they're not happy because of the struggling or the situations that they find themselves in,
Right.
or the resentment of people. Like I have people that if they came to our house, they would feel bad about themselves, and I don't even say anything. Like they look at your house or your car or whatever, and it's their own issue, right? It's their own.
Right.
And they're struggling, and they might be with a guy that because they're dependent on that person, so the man is kind of abusing them, and they don't have a lot of options financially. So it's a complicated scenario, but it's definitely ego based. I have to say, like based on what you were saying, there's a sense of, and not from an egotistical thing, but just a sense of yourself versus other people and the choices you make and
Well, there is an unfortunate dynamic within society that, society values different things differently. Like, like society places more value on a surgeon than on a poet. But, but why is that? I mean, I guess if you're in an emergency situation and you got to go to the hospital, you hope the surgeon knows what they're doing, of course. But, it's kind of arbitrary that society values some things more than others. Um, it's hard. You can't really separate these things. You could say that the arts are just as important as the so-called hard sciences. It's cool that we have biogenetics and technology to develop cars and airplanes. That's all really cool. At the same time, the arts address psychological aspects of ourselves which are not clearly defined. There's lots of folks who become very successful and then in midlife wonder what the hell they're doing with all this money, and they've been scrambling to keep up with everybody and stay ahead and have the two cars and the two houses, and then they find that their lives are empty. So what's that about? I mean, it's very. I just think it's arbitrary. A consumption-based society. It's like, is a CEO of McDonald's more successful than a vegan who is not working because they have ethical issues with the jobs that are available? Who's more successful?
yeah, I think some of it, like I look at it too, like just from a practical perspective of where the money is coming in. Like if people are buying tons of Big Macs and there's tons of millions, billions of dollars coming in, the person who's running that like gets a percentage of that money. If you look at a basketball player making millions of dollars a year, he's just playing a game, but people are going into that stadium and paying $100 or whatever
Yeah.
for tickets, so they're valuing that, and then of course the players and the owners are going to get a percentage of that, so the money is flowing into those areas, and same with surgeons and things, because people are paying money to get fixed, to get cured or whatever it's a problem they have, right? Um, like if you look, say you look at childcare, right? If you look at a person who takes care of your child,
Yeah.
you could say that's like unbelievably important.
Right.
But the parents are only making so much a year, so they can't really pay. Like if you're going to pay somebody $50,000 a year to take care of your kid, you can't. The mother wouldn't even work; she'd just stay home, or the father. So
Well, that's a great point, Will. I mean, that's a whole interesting thing in society, that the emphasis on developing a career has become more important than raising children. So that's exactly what happens. The parents pay for child care for people who will not care for the child as well as the.
lost you again.
So that the parents can work at these jobs. And so, yep, we just got separated again, and I apologize to the viewers, but I think we're going to have to wrap this up. Can you hear me, Will?
Yep.
Okay.
You're taping this one?
Yeah, it's live, man.
Holy shit.
But it's all right.
I got to cut out here, but
Yeah.
It's really fascinating, and it's a huge topic as far as what value we place on things, and what I try to do is look at each person and see if they're happy. And what I was talking about earlier is when you make statements like people have diabetes or they get sick and they're still eating crap, or they're struggling you want them to make changes, say with diet or stop smoking or whatever, financially, instead of saying, well, they're a cashier and they should be able to get paid a lot more money. What I tend to do is try to work within the system. So that would be retraining and to get, not that you have to work all the time and spend your whole life working to make money, but what I've done now is I've been able to get out of the game by working within the system, and earning as much as I can in a short amount of time so I can spend most of my time doing other things.
I respect all that, Will. I respect that, but the truth of the matter is, not everyone is going to write code. Not everyone is going to become a designer of jet engines. Not everyone's going to become a medical doctor. We have people that are going to collect trash. We have people that are going to be plumbers. There's going to be people who run cash registers. And as long as there's got to be some equity. As long as a CEO's salary is 1,000 times or 10,000 times that of the front store person, there's going to be a problem.
Yeah, like I said earlier, I always look at it like if that person is struggling with whatever they're doing, for me, I'd rather have them focus on themselves and try to figure out a way to adjust that, not to just say, that's what you're going to be for your whole life and you can't ever learn anything or do anything different. And, instead of, if you just sat there and went to the, government and protested about the CEO pay, it's just something external, like in most cases, rather than people trying to improve themselves. That's how I see it.
Yeah.
There's people that'll never change and they're always going to be what they're going to be, but I look at everything I did and other people I know, like, when I went back and did programming, I was actually an engineer. I went back to school, spent $20,000, quit my job. There's even people in all sorts of artistic endeavors can figure out how to make money. Like if they're making music or gardening, there's ways to get a certain level of income from that. But yeah, I mean, the people have to live within the society right now, in general, and it's not easy in a lot of cases.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of truth to what you're saying, and I also think we need to respect people who do these tasks that we're suggesting are menial or they don't require a great deal of training. These jobs have to be done also, and they're deserving of dignity and respect.
Yeah, for sure. When I was talking about the people that I tend to talk about, like there's the health issues a lot mostly, but like because they're having problems, health issues.
Yeah.
So when I tend to focus on are people that are actually having problems, like they're not happy about their scenario, so it's either health issues or they're struggling financially or some other way. If the person is picking up garbage and they're happy, there's no issue. Like they're happy and they're you just want each person to be happy. Like there's people making tons of money who aren't happy. I was making a lot more money than I am now, and I wasn't happy because I was spending my whole life doing something I didn't really like doing. So there, at any level, you just want everybody to be happy, essentially. So usually the problem comes in for me is when they're not happy. They mention something to you, and then your natural ability is to want to solve the problem, to want to help them.
Right.
But, and usually it's their own scenario that you can try to help them with. You can't really, like if somebody's having trouble financially, my focus would be what they could do themselves rather than what we could do to other like the general rules of society. That's a harder aspect to change in the immediate future, for that person.
Right.
But if they're happy doing whatever, I know people at all levels that are happy, and it doesn't matter really what they're doing as long as they're happy. But I gotta cut out here.
Yeah, man.
But it was great chatting, and I wanted to go into more. I wanted to know what your thoughts were more about this, but I just keep reading it. I've got some other books I'm reading, some gardening stuff too. So I'm just bouncing back and forth. But I'd like to get your thoughts on that, on what your ideas were on that book as well.
Yeah, man. It can be a little thick, so but I appreciate you taking a glance at it.
You know, I think I'm getting to the good spots.
All right. All right. Thanks for taking the time, Will. Sorry we kind of jumped around here and there.
No, it's good. All right, we'll talk to you later, man.
Take it easy, brother.
Yeah.
Well, thanks for watching, y'all. I think somebody just tried to hook on, and I don't know what happened. I need to get better aware of how to work this Google Hangout thing. I sent a shout out to High Carb Skate Punk, and it could have been him, but anyway, you guys, whenever I do this, you're all welcome to jump on, and if you haven't gotten an invitation, send me like an email, and maybe I can check my email while I'm in here, you know. And if you send me an email, maybe we can get you hooked in. So anyway, thanks for hanging out with us. Hope it wasn't too boring, and we'll look forward to seeing you next time. Take care.